I hope the news cycle over the past 24 hours has proven to the Canadian legacy media and to the liberal political establishment why you don't label people Nazis who are not actual Nazis. It turns out that when you suck the meaning out of the term Nazi and just apply it to everyone you think is politically out of bounds, you stop taking real Nazis seriously. And this is how we end up in this ridiculous situation where supposedly the Speaker of the House, Anthony Zota, had invited someone who was part of the Waffen SS from World War II in Ukraine to Parliament to be given a standing ovation while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was in the country. It's insane that this occurred, and it shows that we really need to beef up our social studies curriculum in all the provinces in Canada, because obviously a lot of people do not know do not make a strong connection in their brains to Nazis when they hear that someone fought the Russians in World War II in Ukraine. That's a little bit concerning that went over people's heads, that it's probably going to be a Nazi if they were fighting the Russians in Ukraine. Yes, there were some Ukrainians who didn't fight for either the Soviets or the Germans and just fought against both of them. There are very few and far between, and they're probably not alive because of both armies trying to wipe them out during World War II. But, I think that people in Parliament are smart enough not to invite someone like this. And I'm going to get into a little bit later that I do believe that Justin Trudeau fully knew that this guy was coming to Parliament. I don't think anyone knew he was a Nazi. I think the Liberals are just incompetent as usual. Right now, I think the big scandal in all of this is just the fact that I think that we've really watered down the term Nazi to the point that we don't really we don't really see Nazis as real things that exist. We just see it as the throwaway term that you use when you want to smear your political opponent. Remember when the truckers were Nazis, when everyone who was part of the freedom movement was supposedly a Nazi, we were standing with swastikas if we didn't like the lockdowns. All of this was obviously disgusting smears like that. I forget her name, but that liberal, that now minister who thought that the term honk honk meant Heil Hitler, because she's just an idiot. But we're in a situation now where I'm happy that the Liberals have actually, stepped into this one. And now they realize why you maybe shouldn't be throwing around those smear terms. I don't think they're going to stop throwing around smear terms like Nazi and fascist, but this will be a fantastic moment in Canadian history that everyone can always point back to when everyone starts, throwing around the term Nazi without actual reference to National Socialism. Also, just to throw it out there, Nazism is not a far-right ideology, it's a far-left ideology. Any ideology that makes the government in charge of everything in a country is a socialist government. People throwing around that stupid theory that, well, the Nazis only call themselves National Socialists for a marketing gimmick. No. They literally hate capitalism. There was one of the Nazi philosophers wrote a book literally called Das Endes des Kapitalismus or whatever. They're not capitalists. Anyways, moving on. Sorry about that little rabbit hole, but look, you just learned something here today. But I think that Justin Trudeau obviously knew that Mr. Hunka was coming to Parliament, and his PMO and the Speaker of the House, Anthony Zota's staff, would have easily been able to background check this guy. But I just don't think that the Liberals think that the rules apply to them. They don't think that the media is ever going to call them out on anything. So they just sort of don't really care to background check anyone they bring to Parliament because, hey, we're the good guys. Why would we ever bring someone to Parliament who's a bad guy? We're nice progressive liberals. We do our homework, and we obviously don't need to ever research anything again because we know everything. We've already know what the end of history is. So whoever we invite to Parliament must be as great and kind and tolerant as we are. But I think this post right here from his granddaughter, Mr. Hunka's granddaughter, basically shows that, like, Justin Trudeau obviously knew. Can I get this to finally come up on screen? Great. This post right here probably demonstrates that the PMO knew that he was coming to Parliament and had ample opportunity to look into Mr. Hunka's background, because it was just a Google search away to figure out that he was part of the Waffen SS. If you actually research what unit he was part of and which theater of war he was in, and because he was literally at the reception with Trudeau and Zelensky, it is complete lack of due diligence on Trudeau's staff's part to have Mr. Hunka coming. And I think that Justin Trudeau needs to apologize, because so far Anthony Zota is the only one who has apologized, and it's obviously he's just falling on his sword for Justin Trudeau, because his statement apologizing for this immediately starts up with the blanket boilerplate statement that this is only my fault. I take full responsibility. This is nobody else's fault other than my own. And it's like, okay, you might have invited him and maybe you take chief responsibility, but the PMO in such a big event as having President Zelensky being invited to Parliament to speak Obviously, this is a moment when you should be double and triple checking every single person who's going to be meeting with President Zelensky and Trudeau, but they just didn't because they just don't care. But anyways, but this is what Trudeau said when asked in the hallway about this situation in Parliament, and I think that he's obviously knows that he's a part of this, and he's just trying to dodge as much as possible.
Obviously, it's extremely upsetting that this happened. The speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians. I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are commemorating Yom Kippur today. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine, as we did last week with announcing further measures to stand with Ukraine in Russia's illegal war against.
Okay, obviously that answer to a question by Justin Trudeau is going to require its own little breakdown right here. So first, he immediately does exactly what he probably instructed Anthony Zota to do, is to take all responsibility on himself. Because Justin Trudeau, right at the beginning of that statement, said it was all Anthony's fault. He's the only person who has to apologize. I don't have to apologize. And then he immediately moves on to saying, well, this must be very difficult for the Jewish community in Canada, which I believe, I would assume it is. It's like literally Yom Kippur, the next day after we had a member of the SS getting a standing ovation in Parliament. But is Justin Trudeau going to apologize to Melissa Lantsman for accusing her, a Jewish woman, of standing with swastikas during the Freedom Convoy? Is he going to do any of this? Is he ever going to apologize for any of the other people who have met with and like openly take photos with and attend events with anti-Semites from the Liberal Party? Probably not, because Justin Trudeau doesn't actually care. And even though this is a pretty bad look for his party, I guarantee the media over the next couple of days is going to make tons of excuses for Justin Trudeau of why he doesn't have to do his due diligence, when if Stephen Harper even invited someone who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a Nazi, they'd be getting ripped up for an entire month. Like all the Stephen Harper scandals during his government were like really shallow, and the media could bring them out, could draw them out for like months at a time. Like the Mike Duffy stuff was like the most nonsensical, who cares scandal ever. Like a guy, billed taxpayers for way too much. That's not that unique in Canadian politics, that a politician bills taxpayers for things they shouldn't be billing them for. And Stephen Harper's another senator and MP paid off that guy's bills because Mike Duffy's an idiot and wouldn't pay it himself. That's almost borderline not a scandal. It's kind of a scandal, but it doesn't implicate it doesn't implicate Harper. If anything, his people did the right thing. But again, sorry for going down another rabbit hole. But Justin Trudeau ended off that question, like that answer to that question, with basically pivoting to, well, we should all fight Russian disinformation and misinformation and stand by Ukraine. Nobody's talking about whether or not we should stand by Ukraine right now. This has nothing to do with the scandal, but he's almost implying as if somehow this Mr. Hunka guy being given standing ovation is part of Russian disinformation or misinformation. I could actually see the Liberals trying to pivot and trying to blame Russians for his presence at the Parliament, and basically thinking like, oh, maybe he was pushed forward by some Russian agents or something to be given a standing ovation in Parliament to embarrass Canada. Like, no, Justin, this is fully on you and your party and the Speaker of the House. This is on nobody else. And bringing up Russian disinformation is such a stupid pivot. I agree that there is a lot of Russian disinformation and misinformation about the war in Ukraine. There's also some Ukrainian misinformation too. I think anyone who starts to label whether the Ukrainians or the Russians are Nazis is missing the point. There just tends to be a lot of ignorance around National Socialism in Eastern Europe, where in Russia and Ukraine, you'll find a lot of people with swastika tattoos than you would really, want to know about. It's kind of it's a very strange part of the world, and but that has nothing to do with the fact that you invited a Nazi to have a standing ovation given to him in Parliament. This is all completely ancillary information that we don't really need to be discussing right now. But Justin Trudeau is deeply uncomfortable, so he's trying to blame, Zota for this mistake, and then he's pivoting to how bad Russia is and whatnot. And I think this is the perfect response to Justin Trudeau's excuse making.
I don't care.
I just really like using that clip, and I just found a great opportunity on the fly to use it. But anyways, I hope that the legacy media and the liberal political establishment has learned its lesson, and this is going to go down as a great Canadian heritage moment that we can use whenever people start misusing the term Nazi again. Anyways, this should be the end of the video for me. And if you want to donate to my Give, Send, Go for my legal case defending myself against a Chinese billionaire, you can donate in the link in the description below. It really helps me out. I've had to pay over $15,000 into defending myself, and it's been really helpful, all the people who have been donating a little bit here and there. And also, if you want to sign up for the National Telegraph's email list to be able to get our videos and articles sent directly to your inbox, the TNT email link is also in the description of this video below. Have a great day, everyone.